Hey folks, Josh here from Solopreneur Grind, back for another book review and key takeaways. Let's jump in. So today we're going to be talking about Shoedog. This is a memoir by Phil Knight, a memoir by the creator of Nike. So a lot of people don't even know, obviously Nike is a super popular, big, successful company. Most people like myself didn't even know the founder's name, right? So his name is Phil Knight. As per usual, I want to show you guys what the actual book looks like. So not a huge book in terms of like size, but pretty good in terms of depth. We're tipping about 375 pages here. So definitely not a short read, not a super long read. And the version that I got is the soft cover, and it's pretty, not too big, right? If we're comparing it to my hands. So it was a good size in terms of like being able to kind of hold it, lie in bed, etc., etc. Now, overall, I want to say number one, I love the book. I'll go into my three key takeaways in just a second, but I really, really enjoyed this book. I've read it at least 2 times, might even have been 3 times over the last few years, so I really like it. It's a memoir, so it's written by Phil's perspective, and the one of many reasons why I really enjoyed it is the fact that it's very personal, it's very deep. He starts from the very beginning, early on in his life, covers almost every aspect that you can think of, and it's really a tale of grit and determination more than anything, which I'll talk about. But Phil goes into really extreme detail on the entire journey from start to finish of starting a business. So I think it gives a really good perspective on everything. Basically, what he did was kind of commit his life and took big risks to create a company like he did. So it's a great story, I think, more so than anything, and I highly recommend it. But anyways, let's get into my three key takeaways from reading the book. All right, so key takeaway number one is that there is no playbook to success in business. And what I mean by that is, yes, you can go get degrees, yes, you can read books, yes, you can watch YouTube videos, but ultimately, when it comes to building a business from scratch and growing it to the level that Phil did, it's not something you can simply read or watch and pick up and have a rosy path to success. And the reason why I say this, especially as it was described from the book by Phil, is there's so many ups and downs in business, and especially in his case, so many scenarios where he just got either unlucky or an unfortunate event happened, and he had to just figure it out. There was not necessarily someone he could talk to that had been through that exact scenario before. Of course, he was surrounded by good people, which we'll talk about, but who could help him and kind of guide him to make the decision. But a lot of times he kind of just had to make a decision, almost like a gut decision. A big event that sticks out from the book was picking the name Nike. The company didn't actually start out named Nike, and basically they were going through a rebranding, and the company had been debating and arguing and thinking about a different name to start with their new brand for weeks and weeks and weeks, and ultimately it came down to about a 1 minute decision where Phil had to make the call in the new name to the company that was going to produce a big patch of shoes, and Nike was one of them, and he just kind of went with his gut and picked Nike. So what I'm trying to say here is, yes, do your research, yes, do your learning, your education, all that kind of stuff, but just realize if you're going to go through the journey of starting and growing a big business, there are going to be uncertainties and difficult times and difficult decisions to make, and that's okay. You just have to get comfortable with making those decisions and sticking with them and moving forward. The second key takeaway that I took from this book is to hire great people, even if you don't know what job they're going to do. And the reason I say this is there were multiple times over Phil's career and the life of Nike where Phil just had a really good feeling or was really convinced about a person or was really impressed by a person and hired them, even though they weren't necessarily hiring for a particular position or knew what role that person was going to do. And I'll give you a couple examples. The first example is actually his wife. He hired his wife before, of course, they were married, when she was actually one of his students because he was teaching college courses in accounting. And long story short was, he kind of had a crush on her and was extremely impressed by the grades she was getting in his class, so he hired her part-time to start just doing random things around the office and bookkeeping. And she was so good at what she did that she ended up really excelling in the company and obviously went on to raise his family, which is a slightly other story. But an example of him being partially impressed and partially being attracted to, in this case, somebody who he hired. But this example happened multiple times throughout the book with a previous accountant he was working with, or when Nike was going through a court case and he was working very closely with one of the new young lawyers at the firm. And he became so close with that lawyer and liked him so much, he ended up hiring him. They didn't necessarily need an in-house legal counsel, but he was so impressed and liked working with this person that they decided to hire him. And a lot of these people ended up just flourishing in whatever role that Phil kind of gave them, because it wasn't about the fact that, hey, this is a role that we're hiring for and I think you'll be a good fit. Phil's approach seemed to be, at least as summarized in this book, I'm just going to hire great, smart, motivated people and we're going to find ways for them to be successful. Now, my last key takeaway from this book, it kind of relates to the first lesson a little bit, but what I learned is probably the most important factor when you're an entrepreneur trying to grow a business to be successful is grit and determination might trump everything else. I mean, having experience, having, being very smart, having big ideas or passions. If Phil was anything, it was full of grit, full of determination, and not willing to give up. And I think that that's a common factor that I've noticed after reading a lot of actually it's more of these books right here. These are more of kind of like the biographies and autobiographies of successful entrepreneurs. It's above all else, grit and determination seem to be some of the most common characteristics, because things will get tough, things will get hard, competitors will pop up, difficulties will come, and all you have to do is be able to put your head down, keep working, look after yourself, look after your family, look after your employees, but keep pushing forward to find a way, because it's almost unbelievable what you or your company or your colleagues can do if you just refuse to get up and keep pushing, obviously within certain lines, right? I'm not saying do anything illegal or do anything shady or anything like that. This is assuming that you're a good person, you're acting within the confines of the law and stuff like that. But it's incredible to read the first-hand stories of all these difficulties that came up for Phil, because all of these or similar types of difficulties have and probably will come up for other entrepreneurs as well. But the ones that refuse to give up are probably the ones that make it to the top of the mountain. So those are my thoughts again about reading Shoedog, a memoir by Phil Knight. Again, I highly recommend this book. It's actually one of my favorite books from the last few years. If you are an entrepreneur or you want to become an entrepreneur or solopreneur, you like reading stories about people, especially people in business, I think you'll really enjoy the book. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Make sure to like the video if you enjoyed. Make sure to subscribe if you want more of these videos where I talk about summaries and key takeaways from some of the favorite books that I'm reading. And if you have read the book, please let me know what you think in the comments. Do you agree with my takeaways? Did you enjoy it as well? Always love to hear that stuff. Anyways, thank you again for tuning in. Make sure to subscribe for more, and I'll see you in the next video.